afternoon, one and all. I, on behalf of the CMS fraternity, Jamia Millia Islamia, accord a very warm welcome to Mr. Gil Belford and his wife, Mr. Gil Belford, Vice President, Global Growth Zomato, who accepted our invitation to have this interactive session today. Now I would like to call upon my friend Sarosh to present a bouquet to Mr. Belford. Mr. Belford is a part of Zomato's core team at headquarters, helping define, improve, and implement worldwide processes as the company scales. He focuses on the creation and implementation of a worldwide induction and training program for all functions of the company and partnerships for Zomato base. A firm believer in ownership, in driving culture, and in empowering everyone around him to do the best job they can. Zomato, as we all know, is an Indian company that started back in 2008. In 2012, it spread its wings globally and started to acquire restaurant listing companies in emerging markets. Today, Zomato is present in 22 countries with a listing of over 1 million restaurants globally. He has been Assistant Vice President, Operations for Zomato in Czech Republic and Slovakia, helping manage Zomato's launch and daily operations. He has also been the content lead for Zomato in Czech Republic and Slovakia, setting up all of Zomato's content operations for its launch in the Slovakian markets. During his term as a senior content associate for Zomato, he got an amazing opportunity to combine his passion for internet business with his love for food. Now, I would like to call upon Mr. Belford to share his experience with us.
Hello everyone. First of all, thank you so much for having me. Let me just bear with me while I connect this through. Always a problem with computers, right? So, like I said, I'm Joe. That's fine. I'll shout it out. Thanks for having me, first of all. As you can probably tell, I'm not originally from here. I'm from Portugal. I'm 28 years old, and thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here today and to be able to have the privilege of talking to you guys, and hopefully be able to learn a little bit from you as well and be able to answer all of your questions that you might have. So I'd like to start a little bit. Somebody has already stolen this part from me because they've told you all about where I used to work. But I'd like to tell you that I started working in Portugal. I started working when I was 16, but I was still studying. I worked for Vodafone, then I studied economics in Lisbon. Then I ended up working for one of the largest companies in travel and tourism that existed in Portugal. We used to gross about 50 million euros in sales every year. It was also kind of a startup. By this time, it was about 10 years old. And we did business in Portugal, Spain, and Brazil. That was a very, very interesting experience. It was my first, I would say, real hardcore working experience. It was very demanding. I got the feeling for what it was to work at a startup. Right? It wasn't just your normal 9 to 5, go into your work, just spend the time away, like it was for me, for instance, when I worked at Vodafone. When you went into a startup, you felt part of the growth of the company, and you felt like every day, you're not just spending time there to get your paycheck at the end of the month. You are together with other people trying to achieve that is greater than the norm, right? When I worked there, the company's name is Gil Belford. I got a chance to also work in Brazil. So I went to São Paulo, which is one of the largest cities in Brazil, to implement one of the projects that we had in the company, which was a new CRM software. So I got to work there for a month and a half. I've always traveled quite a bit. So I used to do competitive sports when I was younger, and that meant that every single month I would be traveling around. And if anything, I thought that taught me a lot. It taught me how to get to know other people's cultures, right? New languages, and it created that interest for me, that I would always like to travel and suddenly be thrown into something which was completely alien, completely foreign to me. So In Brazil, I got for the first time the chance to know what it was like to work in a different country, right? This was kind of cheating. Brazil has exactly the same language as Portugal. You're still speaking the same language, so it wasn't that different. But still, and you've been used to working a certain way. You've been used to working with people and with the same people and working in one particular way, and suddenly you're thrust into a new country where people do things differently, right? A yes, I'll get to it right away in Portugal is completely different from a yes, I'll get right to it in Brazil. But yeah, I'll get right to it. What do we? Right? We go to meetings and everybody's like, yeah, no problem, that's a great idea. And then nothing would ever happen. They wouldn't do anything, right? So those little small, which might seem like really, really small things, actually make all the difference when you're trying to do business in a different context. And it's those little things and those little signals that are super important for you guys to be able to pick up and just to generally have an open mind and being able to understand that, hey, I might know a lot about how things work, say in India, but if you're suddenly shifted to a different place, then you need to be able to remove that from your head and to be able to be like a sponge and to capture all this new information which is coming right at you. If you try and do things exactly the same way that you were used to doing them, 99 times out of 100, it's not going to work. Then after Brazil, I got a chance to work in Spain. So I also got the chance to spend a couple of months over there and to work on implementing a similar project. It's very fun, but again, almost like cheating, right? So this is Portugal, this is Spain. Still close, right? Language is kind of similar, although every Portuguese person thinks they can speak Spanish perfectly. It's not true. Although we think so, right? Call it like Spanishese. And it actually leads to some very funny situations in which we think we're saying a sentence that everybody can understand because we think that the words are all similar. 3 of them are not. And we're saying something completely different and people just stare at us. So then, again, also very interesting, but again, a people that, although they're very close, they have very different ways of doing things. Then, after this, that company that I used to work for, Videbella, Portugal was, after the US crisis in 2007, Portugal was also, it suffered a lot from that financial crisis, from basically the consequences of that financial crisis. So the company that I worked for, which was very, very sensible to fluctuations in internal consumptions of the country, actually went out of business. It was a long, drawn-out process of about 6 to 8 months where we were sort of, and again, because this is a startup, it hits much closer to home. It's what you built. It's what you helped, what you were working 12 hours every day for. And it's not just your 9-to-5 job that one day says, hey, sorry guys, we're going out of business. Cool, I'll find another one. Right? This is something that you had built. You loved the people that you worked with. They were the same people who were by your side when you were trying to build something great. And it was, I mean, now, looking back on it, I'm happy that I went through that, but I don't want to do it again. So at least it gives me that. I stayed until the very last day of the company, and it was tough. I mean, we had clients who needed to get paid, and we unfortunately did not have the money to pay them right now. And sometimes you would get put into a position where these same clients that you had worked with for the past 2 years, which had your personal phone number, which would call you, and hey, what's happening? Are you guys going to pay me or not? And you were suddenly split between you as an employee and you as a person and as a friend. It was a very challenging situation, but again, now looking back at it, I'm very, very glad that I got to go through it. So after that, after the company closed, I had quite a bit of money, so I thought, why not? I'll start my own company. I knew quite a bit about travel. I was quite well connected within the travel industry in Portugal, and I thought that I had identified a niche where my company could succeed and where we could provide a better service than other people were providing. So that's what I did. The company was called Portugueser. It was similar to, it was an online booking engine in which you could book hotels, activities such as, say, rafting, or you could jump off airplanes with a parachute, And at the same time, you could also book restaurants. So that was the concept. It was very, very fun. In the sense that when you were being an entrepreneur and you're starting your own business, then suddenly there is no more support structure. You're the support structure. If you need a lawyer, you're the lawyer. If you need to work out sales projections, again, pull out the Excel sheet, make it work. If there's something that you don't know how to do, then guess what? You go to Google, you read a book, you call a friend who does, somehow you make it work, right? It's very, very challenging, and it's an emotional roller coaster. One day you think like, this is the best idea ever, I'm a genius, I can't believe nobody else has thought of this. And then the next day you're like, this is never gonna work, this is terrible, I couldn't close that sale, oh my god, what have I gotten myself into, everybody was right. So, but again, it teaches you a lot about yourself, and you are truly in a sink or swim scenario, right? If you don't do something, it won't get done. It's on you and the people that are on you on the same boat to make things happen. So we went into a couple of startup accelerators in Portugal. We did very well. We got some investments, very small sort of seed round investments, and things were going decently well. But we also understood that it was a very, very, very large market for us to be getting into. That the reason why people in that market weren't succeeding at what we were trying to do is because it was very hard. So companies like Booking.com spend hi guys. So companies like Booking.com invest upwards of $1 billion in Google AdWords every year, just on Google AdWords, which means that basically almost everything that you search online, Booking will find some way to be associated with it. Right? If it's a festival that's happening in town or anything, you'll always find Booking.com links. And also at the same time, me and my partners, we were getting to a stage where, sure, this was very good, we were learning a lot, we were doing well with the company, but we were not yet at the stage at which we were making enough money that we could support ourselves. And now sort of a year had gone by, and we were at a stage where either we were able to secure some major funding, or we personally did not have enough runway to continue doing this in our personal lives. Because at the end of the day, entrepreneurship is awesome, but so is paying your rent, and so is having a roof to sleep. So that's actually what ended up happening. We tried to secure a large round of funding. We were going for about 600,000 euros. We didn't make it by this much, but again, it was an incredible learning opportunity. Trying to go and pitch your company to venture capital funds, again, is a really, 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 really interesting experience, and it really challenges you. Because those guys, they're like dogs, they smell the fear. And they will ask you the most difficult, the most detailed questions, and you cannot hesitate for 1 second in giving them an answer. If they ask you, so, and what's your projected sales revenue, you have to know that by heart. If you go like, oh, well, the sales are, we're going to, it's kind of, what is it called? Done. Done. This guy doesn't know. He doesn't know his own company, his own business that he's trying to get me to put my money on. He doesn't know. Right? So that again taught us really, really, really a lot. And then the next chapter of my story actually came in quite a funny way. So remember I told you that one of the things that our company did was that we also booked restaurants. Yeah. So if somebody was searching for a hotel to book, they'd be able to see what all restaurants there were around, and they'd be able to book them directly through our platform. So we did this by integrating with a partner, with a Portuguese company that was called Best Tables. And they also did restaurant bookings. So I went at the time and I pitched to the CEO of the company, to the founder of the company, actually one of the founders, and I brought in this very, very elaborate PPT deck that I had prepared. I had prepared my presentation, and I went and I started talking to him, and he's like, I'm like 3 slides into my 20-slide presentation. The guy says, great idea, let's do it. But I have all these, no, it's fine, come on, I think it's a great idea, it's fine, we'll work with you. That's great. So I left that meeting feeling very happy about myself, being able to secure this very cool partner. For us as a company, it was great because these guys took care of everything. They would take care of the restaurants, they would take care of the platform, and they would give us an API, and all we needed to do was basically sell the restaurant booking to the client, and we'd be making money. So then next week, I send him an email, very happy, like, what are the next steps? So let's follow up. He doesn't reply. So 2 weeks go by, I send him another email. Doesn't reply. 3 weeks, doesn't reply. By now, I'm cursing this guy. Like, why did you act so enthusiastic and now you don't? Maybe he was Brazilian, I don't know. So then, 2 or 3 weeks go by, and actually, I get this message on LinkedIn, right? And it's the same guy. And he says, hey, you know what? I've actually left my previous company. So he was actually pushed away by some of the investors, which came in, and their visions diverged a little bit. So now actually I'm joining Zomato, and I'm going to be starting Zomato here in Portugal, and why don't you come join me? So it was perfect. This happened right as we were, as a startup, making that final decision that we could not go on as we were. And this is when the guy that I had been cursing all this time for not getting back to me, now, finally, he messages me and he wants me to join Zomato. I didn't know anything about Zomato. Zomato didn't exist in Portugal. The closest it did at this time, this was in about December of 2013, it existed in London. And that was it. I had never heard of Zomato in my life. Okay, I said, cool. I researched the company a little bit. It seemed very good. Very, very big in India. And the app looked really cool. I downloaded the app. I played around with it a little bit. The company looked really nice. It had nice funding. It was a startup. I thought, why not? It seems good. So I had my first interview. I thought it went well. Then I had my second interview. Again, that time was with the head of content, the global head of content. I thought it went really well, and then comes that stage where I'm already envisioning myself, I'm going to work for these guys because this company seems really cool. So then they told me, okay, and now just have one final round, and this was to be with one of the founders. And again, this is kind of an embarrassing story, but I'd like to tell this to you guys. So I was at a stage where I've been an entrepreneur now for going on a year, right? So it's back when I was at school and I'd have those long summer breaks. When you're a teen, you kind of default into that same sleep schedule where you go to bed really late and you wake up really late. That's what I was sort of going through. And because the time difference was so large between India and Portugal, he had booked the interview with me at like 10 a.m. in the morning. And I said, sure, no problem. And I actually dreamt that I was going to sleep through it, and I slept through it. So here it was, you know, like this company that I really, really liked, and that I didn't feel that strongly when they first contacted me, but now I was invested in it, and I really wanted to work for Zomato, and I just slept through an interview with the founder. I thought to myself, dude, you just blew it, like, there's no coming back from this. Again, and let's promise this doesn't leave this room. I sort of made up some excuse. Sorry, sir, you know, I blew a tire in my car, and I had no battery on my phone. It was terrible. I didn't have to tell him this story. Okay, so then he was very, very nice, and he agreed to like reschedule the interview for that evening. So great. So then I got a chance to speak with him. Things went great. Again, in my total entrepreneurial spirit, I was doing this on Skype. I was wearing a shirt and my pajamas. But it all went well. I thought he clicked. And that's sort of the story of how I came to start working for Zomato in Portugal. So then, first day was really cool. So I got to the office, and it was this time, I'm sure you imagine, I mean, for you, Zomato here in India has always been something huge and this really big company that everybody knows. In Portugal, nobody knew who the hell Zomato was. Nobody knew. And because we were just starting out, we had this small office, right? And it was about 14 or 16 of us in the beginning in Portugal. All sitting down on these chairs that we had, like the cheapest there were in IKEA. one of now a really great friend of mine, Nina, she's our global head of PR, was giving us our initial induction training into Zomato. So this group of 16 people out of a 12-inch MacBook Air screen, and we're all like looking around, okay, this is cool. But then what started happening, and I don't know if you guys have an idea of how Zomato launches a new market once we go in. So the way that we used to collect the content is, rather than do it the easy way in which we would buy someone else's database or, I don't know, we actually go out and we walk every single street in the city and we go into every single restaurant and we collect the information by hand so that we can be 100% sure that the information that we're passing on to our users is as credible as possible. And that, let's say that you guys are going on a date with your girlfriend or your boyfriend and you found this amazing restaurant that you want to take them to, you're not going to the wrong place. Or you're not taking them there when it's closed. That would be the most colossal failure that we could have as a company. So we know how important the credibility of the information is, and that's why we choose to do it this particular way. Now this all sounds very romantic and nice, but it's hard. You actually have to walk the streets in the cold and in the rain, and so that's what the 14 of us did over the course of the next month and a half. So we had about 12 people join us from the Zomato international team. People from Czech Republic, Philippines, countries I didn't even know existed, from India, and it was amazing. All of these really young guys who had launched 2 or 3 markets in the past and who knew so much about Zomato, and they were so motivated. And we felt like, these guys are really, really crazy about this. Like, they really, really like this. There must be something here. We didn't see it yet. And whenever somebody would tell us, like, guys, in the next 4 weeks, you're going to walk through all the streets of Lisbon, we're like, yeah, this guy doesn't know. Yeah, sure we will, that's fine. But then, day by day, you would see, so we used to have this large map in the office. And every day, whenever we covered a new area, we would also cover that area in the map. And as day after day, we started, as a team, we started covering more and more and more area, then suddenly, the whole map was almost covered. And then, every single day, we would believe a little bit more, right? And this continued until we were finally able to launch the product in Portugal. And it was awesome. Although it's funny as well. You would go into the restaurant and you would say, hello, we're from Zomato. So what? So, what do you want with my information? So a lot of times you have to find alternate solutions. Right? Some people didn't want to cooperate. Fine, you would sit down and ask, excuse me, sir, can I have a chocolate bar? I'd like a receipt with your information on it. You would do whatever. Sometimes, like, one person would sort of ask the other, sir, how much is that thing over there? And as the guy turned, we would take pictures of the restaurant so that we could put it on Zomato. We were very committed. We wanted our users to really get access to all this information. So that was the great thing, was that everybody in the company, everybody in the team shared that same spirit, that if I have to distract a restaurant owner to get the picture, I'll distract the restaurant owner to get the picture, that's fine. So cool, and then when we finally launched the product, it was awesome. I think on our first day we got 50 hits on the website. We were super happy, 50. But then, like a week or 2 later, we were getting 500 a day, 1,000 a day, 2,000 a day. And it was incredible. And Portugal was really, really, really cool for us. And it was amazing when you would see your friends now starting to use the product that you made, consuming the information that you had created. That's really, really good. And that is one of the best things about working at a startup, is that you get to feel that degree of ownership, right? You're not one number on a spreadsheet. You're not one guy at the call center who's taking up a call. You are really someone who, I mean, obviously it'll take a lot more from you. You'll have to invest a lot more. But also what you get from it is much, much, much larger. And that was definitely something which has made me fall in love with working at startups, and why that's probably what I want to continue to do for the rest of my life. So then, I was the content lead for Lisbon, which means that I managed the content team for Lisbon. We were responsible for the 11,000 restaurants that, the information of 11,000 restaurants that existed in Lisbon. And I mean, I was a team lead, but it's not a leading thing. We were all there for the same thing. Everybody, if they were driving home and they saw a new restaurant that was just opening up, they would quickly park their car, put it in blinkers, and go and very quickly collect information because we wanted to list it. Not even the next day. He would WhatsApp the rest of the team, right? And somebody on the team would list it straight away, right? We also used to do this in sales meetings. Whenever somebody was in a sales meeting and he asked for some information to be changed, we change it in like 30 seconds. So when the restaurant owner refreshed the page, now the information had changed. They'd always go, wow. That was amazing. That was like 50% of making a sale. So a little bit after this, Deepinder Goyal, the other founder of Zomato, went to visit the Lisbon office. So he had heard so much about these crazy Portuguese, and he decided that he was going to go and visit the Lisbon office. So there we were having dinner, and I don't know, I can't remember exactly the context around it, but it was him and the CEO of the company, Suravi Das, amazing person, and he said, you should go to Czech Republic. And that's the story of how I went to Czech Republic. So a little bit after this, Zomato had made 2 acquisitions in Central Europe. We acquired a company in Czech Republic called lunchtime.cz, and we acquired another company in Slovakia called obedovat.sk. So as a company, we had traditionally always launched markets organically, in which we would go in, we would collect the information, and then we would gradually gain market share against the other companies. But we also kind of found out that even if you offered a better product and you offered better information, people in general, as human beings, we don't like change, right? I'll ask each one of you a question. When was the last time that you guys switched social networks?
5 years back. 7 years back.
And probably from a MySpace to Facebook or something like that, right? Or Orkut to Facebook. Even though Facebook existed for many years prior, you never switched. Even though it's probably a service now that each one of us uses every day, right? So that again goes into people don't like to change. So we learned that it was a much better model if we, and obviously we learned this a little bit through trial and error and by studying the markets, that if we were to go in, the quickest way would be actually to acquire another existing company and basically capture the traffic that they already had. So that's what we did in Czech Republic and in Slovakia. Another thing which was also very, very important whenever we went into a new market is that Zomato is in a business that deals with food, right? I would say that after language and maybe even before religion, food is one of the stronger cultural elements that every single country and nationality has, right? The way that, even here in India, the way that people eat and the kind of food that people eat in Delhi will be different from Mumbai, will be different from Kerala, will be different from Bangalore. So imagine from country to country. The kind of foods that people eat, the kind of things, attributes that people search for, all of that will be completely different. So what's really important for you is that you always need to be able to adapt your product and to learn from the market when you're going to launch something like this. For instance, in Prague, in Czech Republic, it's really important to have the information about whether or not a restaurant accepts pets. Doesn't make that huge amount of sense here in India, right? But veg and non-veg, huge, right? You would not consider using a restaurant guide that did not have veg and non-veg. So these little details, which again seem very, very small, make all the difference when you're launching a product like this. So for us, it was very key that we were able to get those things, to get those learnings by acquiring a company that had already been operating in that market for a long time. And so, again, I worked on the content side of things in Czech Republic and Slovakia. I had to hire the team, and we had to again organize all the data collection that happened for these both countries. And we got there at the end of August, and by December 1st, we were launching with 33 cities across both countries. Again, very challenging, very fun, but at the end, the feeling that you built something. Really, really cool. And then, I got back to Portugal for about a week, and then I got the invitation from Deepinder to come and join Zomato at the headquarters here, and to be part of the global growth team. We were scaling very, very quickly at that time, and we really needed people who understood the business, understood how Zomato worked, and who'd be able to help the company scale. But this also means is that I don't really have a job description. I don't come in, no 2 days at the office are the same. And that's, a lot of the time, that's also very true for working at a startup. Because, I mean, if the table needs to be assembled, well, why not you? Why should somebody else do it? We don't have a table assembler guy. A lot of times it'll have to be you, right? If somebody needs to take out the trash, that's fine, I know how to do that. Just because I'm VP of blah, 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 doesn't mean I don't need to do those things, right? But it's also very, very cool. So every single day, you get to work on different things. And especially at Zomato, one of the things that I value the most and that I really, really like is that whenever you see and you feel that you can create some value and that you have a good suggestion that you think that if that were implemented, that would make the company better, then you can actually go ahead and do that. I don't know, Azad was there. I don't know if you share that vision with me or not, but it's one of the things that I like the most. So all in all, up till now, I've been able to work in 6 different countries across 3 different continents, and I'd like to see that number grow because it's challenging, and challenge is fun. And now, I'm working for Zomato, right? So it's a company with different challenges. It's a company with 3,000 people. We have over 30 nationalities in the team. We're present in 23 countries and across 6 different continents. We don't think we're in Antarctica yet. There's a Twitter handle though. So somebody created a Zomato Antarctica Twitter handle. It's really funny actually. You should follow it. And now, I'd like to tell you guys a little bit about what I felt helped me through this journey. Some of these will be my personal experiences. All of us are different. You're different from her. We're all different, so some of these might not necessarily apply, but bear with me. I'm sharing what I felt was really, really helpful to me. Number 1 is keep an open mind. You might be very experienced in something, but if you're going somewhere else, your experience might not apply. That's something daunting sometimes, right? You might feel that you're kind of starting over. Well, you're not. Your experience is always important, but your ability to listen first and to try and understand if, hey, does this work the same or is it different? Having that capacity to have an open mind is very, very important. Otherwise, let's say, I'll go back to my previous example, you go into Brazil, the guy will say, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And you think, okay, this deal's in the back. It's not. Right? So keeping this open mind and being able to understand these small but very, very important cultural differences. For instance, you won't go into Saudi Arabia and try to shake a man's left hand. Does everybody know why? Google it, but not going to do it. So those kinds of things, very small, very important. Right? Don't be afraid to defend an opinion. With that being said, keeping an open mind, don't be afraid to give an opinion. Don't be a yes man or a yes woman. Right? There's no value in that. You gotta know how to do it. Don't be rude about it. Know how to present your point. You should always be able, if your idea is better, or if you know that you have a better way of doing something, you should always be able to back it up with facts and numbers. Right? If you say that this way of making a sale is better, because, you should be able to say because A, because B, because C. Pro tip. If you can't provide numbers and facts, maybe it's not better. But if you feel strongly about your opinion and you do have a way to back it up, you should never be afraid to defend it. You should never be afraid to defend it. Whether it's the CEO, it's your boss, it's your founder, trust me, in the long run, if if you're working at a place where you care about the outcome, you're not just doing it as your 9 to 5, then if everybody's just saying yes, 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 right? Then the outcome of that is going to be bad for the company. It's going to be bad for everyone. So if you know that you have a better way of doing it, don't just watch it go by. Don't be afraid to stand your ground, and honestly, in the long run, you will be much more respected for it. Somebody might get mad at you or disagree with you in the heat of the moment, but it will be better if you're able to defend your opinion in the long run. Actively challenge yourself. Challenges, most of the time, are not nice. I mean, a challenge by definition is something that is, well, challenging for you. It might be learning a new language, it might be jumping into a completely new culture, but you're not going to grow if you don't challenge yourself. If you keep doing the same thing that you're really good at, and I mean, everybody had that at university, right? There's that one subject that we're really good at. And yeah, you could do that for the rest of your life, but then where's the fun? You're never going to grow outside. You're going to become a really, really amazing, good specialist in that one little thing, but you'll never be able to contribute that much more if you don't challenge yourself to learn. Understand the why of things. It's much better for you to understand why something is being done, asking the right questions, going deep into the problem and understanding why are we doing this, rather than just knowing how to do it. It's, you guys use Excel, right? Everyone here uses Excel. It's better to understand how a formula works and why it does it, and why you're using that formula to do something, rather than just, okay, copy, paste, done. Cool. Because the next time you have to solve a similar problem, if all you learned was how to copy paste, that's not going to help you much if you don't understand the... Same thing is true for math. You can learn how to solve one specific problem, or you can learn the concepts behind it, which will then help you solve all similar problems. Always be prepared. This is very important. Same way I'm not going to say don't, you shouldn't walk into a test without studying and without preparing yourself. Same thing is true in the business world. If you're having an important meeting, don't wing it. Prepare. If you're going for a new job, don't wing it. Prepare. Read about the company. If you're going for a job interview, especially important, learn about the company. And I'm not just saying Google it and sort of, okay, it was founded 7 years ago and it has these many people in these countries. That's not going to really impress the interviewer. That's the minimum that you should do. A better example of preparing is understand what the challenges were that the company's facing. Read some news about them. Trying to understand, like, what are they doing now? Did they just launch a new business? Read about other companies which also launched that kind of business and try and understand what were the challenges that they faced. Always be willing to help. Again, this sort of ties up into actively challenge yourself, because if you're always willing to help someone else, you'll learn. If you're helping your buddy with chemistry, you'll have to learn a little bit about chemistry, right? If you're helping your buddy who doesn't know that much about math, you'll actually have to maybe learn some of the material a little bit better yourself so that you can communicate the knowledge to him. And because also tomorrow you're going to need help, right? And it's the difference of having so many people able and willing to help you as well, because you've done the same for them. Everything is always an opportunity to learn, and that's how you should look at it. When the company that I worked for went out of business, it sucked. It's terrible. It was really bad, but you know what? I learned so much from it, right? I spent 1 year of my life working in my own startup that didn't work out. But that's not how the story sounded to you, is it? I looked at that as a great, great opportunity to learn, because that's what it was. I can honestly say that during the year that I was running my own company, I probably learned more than I learned throughout all my university degrees. I'm sorry. Different university. But this is really true, because if you have that mindset, if you have that openness of mind, that you always are willing to, hey, let me seek this next challenge, let me learn a little bit more here, you will always be able to say that every day you're growing. And that's, at least in my eyes, that is something that's very, very important to me. And then the last one, learn what drives you. Again, we're all different people, we'll all have different motivations, right? Maybe someone wants to own a sailboat, someone wants to be in the US, somebody wants to help feed the poor. Whatever your motivation might be, learn what it is, understand it, and try and position yourself in life, in a job or in a career that you know will make that happen. If it's money, that's fine. There are no ambitions that are more noble than others. Right? Every person will have a specific thing that drives them. For me, it's learning. For me, it's growth and it's challenges, and I love it, at least for now. It might change in the future, but for now, this is what drives me. So if I'm working, say, 12 hours a day, that's fine, as long as I have what drives me. And that's really important. If you can harness that, you'll feel fulfilled by what you do, and you'll be happy. So the key thing here is adaptation, right? That in international business, that's definitely it. I mean, the world is changing. It's not like the world of our parents, where you would go in a career and you would work at the same place for 40 years, right? That doesn't happen. People's tenure at jobs now is increasingly shrinking. People go for 3, 4, if somebody's been working at a company for 10, 12 years, that's incredible, right? And the world is changing. I mean, countries are coming into the economic scene, borders are opening, the internet suddenly opened everything to everyone. So you being able to adapt in an international business world is the single most important thing. And that's sort of a summatory of every single other thing that I've talked about. Especially if you're going to work as, say, an investment bank, or you're going to be working as a consultant, your ability to adapt to each market and each country's reality and each company's reality will be the difference between you succeeding or failing. And now, I just like to walk you through what I feel would be the biggest trends that will happen over the next 5 years, and some of the things that you guys can do in order to prepare for them. Because these next 5 years, they're going to be your next 5 years. Right? You guys are all going to get onto the marketplace. You guys are going to start working, and these are the major trends which will shift the reality that we know over the next 5 years. So there will be a big rise in. This will be a little bit biased towards technology. That is the sort of the industry that I know the most about. So the rise of microfinancing and VC funding, venture capital funding. So very recently in the US, a law was changed, and now you all have heard of Kickstarter. So for those of you who haven't, it's fine. It's a website where, say, if I decide that I'm going to build a new amazing chair that is powered and that moves around and spins and it plays music, then I can put the concept up on Kickstarter, and people can pledge that, hey, if you make that, I'll buy it. Right? How much is it? $50? I'll pledge my $50 US that if you make that chair, I will buy that product for you. And now they have also opened that up to companies. So if you have a startup idea, you have a company, and you're looking for investment, you can actually put it up in a place like Kickstarter, and people will be able to invest in your company. Right? So now instead of the funding only coming from very large banks, very large VC funds, now it can also come from everybody. So you guys can become investors, and people can become investors in your company. There'll be a huge rise in the number of developers and people who are programmers. So in the tech industry today, that is one of the major crunches that exist, is that there are so many tech projects, but there aren't enough developers. That's going to very, very quickly rise over the next couple of years. I mean, if all of you, I'm sure, you've studied economics, right?
Yes.
So you know that whenever there's an insufficiency in terms of offer compared to demand, the market will always adjust itself. So that's what the market's doing now. It's adjusting. So in a number of years, that's going to go up a lot, which will make tech businesses a lot more viable and a lot more common, even than they are today. So that's going to lead to very fierce competition in the tech space. Because also, a lot of the good ideas are being taken, right? So it will be even more challenging for you to be able to compete on the tech space. Many jobs will be automated. So same thing that we saw over probably the past 50 years. Before, cars used to be made by hand. Now they're made by machines. Same thing, accounting was largely done just by accounting professionals. Ever and ever more, they're happening. You're seeing accounting platforms, TurboTax, et cetera, et cetera. So many of the tasks that used to be necessarily done by humans are going to start being solved by software. There will be a huge trend in the rise of the East. India and China are poised to become two of the world's largest economies. China is huge, India is super huge as well, and you guys are absolutely in the right place for the next 5 to 10 to 20 years. Have your responsibility. The on-demand economies will keep growing. So things like Airbnb, Uber, all of those which we didn't even dream of, say, 5, 10 years ago, now are your startup of the future. Every single day there is a new Grofers, a new Uber, a new Airbnb. People are now describing, hey, my startup is the Uber for tables. We'll bring you a table. Like, seriously, I wish I were joking, but I'm not. There's probably a startup that brings you tables. So the on-demand economy will really, really keep growing. And you're seeing that in India a lot. With the advent of the smartphone now, every single person has the internet on their hand. And they're empowered to be able to, say, make a delivery or go and do a cleaning job or anything like that, do a coding job, anything like that they're able to do. So people are getting more and more connected. The Internet of Things will become a reality. So very soon, your fridge will be able to automatically connect with, say, Grofers when it gets low on stock, and they'll come and deliver that thing to you. Your washing machine will become connected to your smartphone. You'll be able to put your washing from your office. That is what's going to happen over the next couple of years. And there's also going to be a lot of advancements in payment technology. And here we see India as a huge, huge pioneer in this front. Smart wallets, that's something, I mean, before coming to India, I knew they existed, but they don't really get used anywhere else. In India here, like, everybody uses a smart wallet for everything. Right? And that is going to be also the way of the future. And right now in India, I think cash payments are still the large majority. That's going to change quite a bit. You're going to go into a lot more electronic payments, and that's going to shift a little bit the face of business. People will need to, you'll need to create a payment network to support all of these new businesses, which will start doing a lot more cash transactions. Because and this revolution lies in the people. Because at some point, you guys are just not going to carry money in your pocket. You're just going to come in and either with your card or your NFC-enabled smartphone, you're going to want to pay for that transaction. And the businesses that don't accept that kind of payments, you're just going to think, oh, I actually don't have money on me. You don't take this, okay, I'll go next door. Right? So you will be the ones driving this revolution and driving this change. It won't be the businesses. The businesses, unfortunately, a lot of the time, they prefer to get paid in cash because cash goes here. There's no tax, there's no invoice, there's no nothing. Right? So it's going to be all of us who will be going to drive this change. And yeah, that's about it. I wanted to save some time as well for some questions and answers. I did bring a gift for you guys as well. It's there. So I brought some cool Zomato t-shirts for you. So the best questions get a t-shirt. Come on, first question is always the hardest. Guys.
I have a question. You said you were previously working with as a competitor to Booking.com, and I believe Ryanair, Holiday Lettings are the two big names in the European market. As an entrepreneur, how did you expect to challenge these people? Like, because Holiday Lettings is the biggest site since ever, and Ryanair has the highest traffic. So these two could not be competed with anyhow. What was the idea behind challenging them?
Agreed. Very good question. So, usually when a company is very, very big, right? it's very rare that they will be able to focus on the whole scope of the market, right? Usually when a company is big, that's why you have, say, very large supermarkets, but you also have the corner stores. So following that logic, the corner stores could never exist because you have large supermarkets which, yeah, they provide a very good service and they're very, very big. And if I'm opening a corner store today, I would never be able to compete with a large supermarket. But you know what? I can serve a niche. I can serve my neighborhood, right? So that should, whenever you're starting a startup, you should have the idea that it can become big down the line. But in the short term, what your startup needs to be able to do is that it needs to be able to address the needs of a small niche very well. And to take you through our thought process, we knew the national market very well. We personally knew a lot of the business owners, a lot of the restaurant owners, the hotel owners very well. And one thing that Booking does very well is it captures bookings, right? En masse. It's a machine that gets as many people through the door as possible, and then it's like an optimized funnel, right, to make sure that as many of those people that come on the website exit the funnel with a reservation made. What Booking does not do very well is that, let's say you have a very special hotel, right? You've built it with your wife, and it's your life project, and you've made it very special, and you guys like teach your guests how to cook, and it's this really, really quaint, nice little place up in the mountains. Well, guess what? You're getting exactly the same page as the 3-star hotel on Booking, right? So what Booking doesn't do very well is it doesn't tell a story very well, and a lot of people, they don't. So the majority of people search for holidays on Booking.
But then there was TripAdvisor that came into the picture once. That was the problem with the travelers. Once they felt that whatever was on websites like Booking.com or VRBO, they started going for websites like TripAdvisor because they only had reviews by travelers. They did not have subscriptions by B2B subscriptions.
So what we did was a step further than that. We would actually build a micro website for the hotel. We would talk with the owner. We would understand what his story was. We would get a professional photographer to take them pictures, and we would make them almost like a website for the hotel that could also capture bookings.
Right.
So we felt, and again, we screwed up a bit, was that would be enough to drive market, to drive that people would come and use our platform. And we enjoyed some success. It was nice. The people who did see our website liked it very much. But the problem is, how would we get people onto the platform? And that was something that we failed to account for, but in an appropriate manner. And let me just segue to a very quick and important thing, which is, if you're launching your own business or starting a venture, it's really important. And it's not easy and it's not nice, but it's really important that you expose yourself to as much feedback as possible, especially critical feedback. Because when you're starting your own thing, everybody will tell you, oh, that's so cool, really nice, entrepreneur, that's buzzword, so cool, huh? You guys are doing your own business, you're going to be so successful. You know, your mom loves that you're doing that and everything. But you're not getting the hard criticism that you need, right? Especially, let's say if it's you, I'll tell you my personal example. It was me and my 2 co-founders in a room, and we would, it was like a patting circle. We would all pat ourselves on the back. That's such a good idea. This is really going to work out. It's going to be so cool, right? When actually we had some challenges. Like whenever said, and how are we going to get clients? We'll do social media marketing. It's cool. People will come. You know, our website will be really good, and people will come. People didn't come. that is the challenge. When you do expose yourself to as much critical feedback as possible, and again, it's not easy, right? That's your job. That's your hours and hours and hours of work. You don't want somebody to come up and sort of wreck it for you. Right? But that's what you should do. And you should as early as possible, because then we would have probably figured out a solution to that beforehand if we had done that earlier. And let me give you a t-shirt. Thank you. Guys, come on. More questions.
I have one question.
This gentleman in the front, you and anyway, I'm not forgotten. Great question. So I'll repeat it a little bit louder so that everybody can understand. So he was asking, since Zomato is providing services in the hospitality industry, what will be the next thing that we will want to do? That's right. So right now, what we offer to our consumers is search and discovery. So you can use Zomato to find a restaurant. We also now offer online ordering, which means that if you want to order a dish, you're feeling lazy, you don't want to get out of your pajamas, you can use Zomato Order, and we will come and deliver the food to you. We're now also introducing table reservations, so now you'll also be able to book a table. On top of that, we are offering now restaurants the ability to have their own mobile app, what we call white label apps. So usually developing an app will cost you something like $7,000 US plus. I mean, iOS, Apple's coming out with new versions, Android's coming out with new versions all the time. So then you need to constantly update your app. So we're actually doing all of that work for the restaurants. And we'll also be coming out with a point of sale system, which will be called Zomato Base. That will be a major step for us. So what we want to do is we already control a large portion of the interactions that happen between a consumer and a restaurant. So I can read reviews, I can order from the app, I can ask for directions, I can ask for an Uber to take me to the restaurant. So that we're all already very present. Now the next step will be for Zomato to be present in the layer that separates the restaurant from its suppliers network. Right? But always is by adding value. So what we want to do is let's say that you have a food truck that sells hamburgers, right? Chicken burgers. So whenever you sell a chicken burger, you know that one chicken patty goes, 2 buns go, right? And let's say 1 tomato goes. So if I know that you have 100 buns, 50 patties, and 50 tomatoes in your stock, and you've sold 30 burgers, I can tell you exactly how your stock looks like, right? And if your stock goes below a certain threshold, I can shoot out a notification to your supplier, and without you having to do anything, your supplier will come and restock your kitchen. So this is the kind of value that we're wanting to add for restaurants, and for what we want for Zomato. Sorry.
Sir, it's quite practical. Since you have been into Indian market, so I just wanted to ask you about crowdfunding. Since if we talk about European market, we have seen that the concept is quite successful over there. But if you look back to Indian market, we have seen that we are more based or dependent on venture capitalists rather than going for crowdfunding. So do you think that that concept might work in future? Because it's quite successful in waste actually. So
again, great question. I would say definitely, and I'll tell you why. India, in terms of population, is huge, very large, which means that probably India has more people than all of Europe. So this is to say, and crowdfunding again is dependent on the crowds. What might happen for a period now is that people are not yet used, or they're still a little bit suspicious of this kind of thing. But once this starts gaining ground, and it will start gaining ground slowly, I think you'll have huge success there, right? And again, the formula for something like crowdfunding is incredibly simple. If you can provide something to people which they value, if you can understand what it is, what's the problem that people have, and you can solve that problem in a good way, what Zomato did. People, the way that Zomato was founded was because Deepinder Goyal needed to go down from his office every day to go to the cafeteria and to go and look at a stack of menus. He created Zomato out of laziness. He wanted to solve a problem, right?
Most innovations are because of that. Remote control and all that.
Absolutely. I think Garfield the cat used to say that laziness is the mother of all invention. Very true. So yeah, if you can find a problem that needs solving, like Uber did with
just a
transportation.
small addition, sir. I don't know. I mean, you know about this or not. Actually, what happens in India? They actually fix a limit that for this idea we need 10,000 US dollars. the case is that even if you manage to get 9,999 points, they won't allow you to use the fund, but in Europe it is. So this is the barrier which they are using in India due to certain financial policies of the government and all. So this is what I think.
I'm speaking from limited knowledge and limited experience, so please bear that in mind. But from what I see of the India of today, it seems to be, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg was here the other day speaking in IIT. Sorry. You guys get me. No, but, and so it means India is open to this kind of thing. It's open to new things, right? And again, the revolution will not come from one politician sitting in an office. It will come from everyone. It will come from all of us. If there are enough companies which are demanding, which are asking for, hey, open that up, that limit makes no sense. We need crowdfunding here. We're not being competitive compared to other nations, to other markets, right? Help me change. What will also happen is, again, if you guys are from an economics background, you understand this mechanic really, really well. Good companies here. Funding structure is not working out, they go abroad. The government sees this. The government sees that their good people, their best people are going outside, right? And they're building companies outside because the landscape is better. They will adapt. And now, the other thing also happens is that with the internet, I mean, you can be working out of here, and you can have a company that's made in Estonia. I mean, you can now be a citizen of Estonia without even being present there. You can register yourself online to be an Estonian citizen. You could have your company structured in, say, London or US, and do your crowdfunding there, but actually have your company working here. All of those. Thank you. Please, sir. By the way, if I forget anybody, it's not on purpose, I swear. Just raise your hand and make some noise.
Sir, during your presentation, you talked about that after 5 years, the payment system in India is going to change. Like there will be more of e-payments. But I have read somewhere that in the United States, bitcoins, you must be aware of bitcoins. So I wanted to know how the bitcoins are different from e-payments and whether bitcoins will be successful in India or not. I want to have your take on this.
Thank you. Again, very good question. So bitcoins are not different from electronic payments at all. What bitcoins are, they are the world's first decentralized currency. Right? So with every currency, be it euro, which reports to the European Central Bank, be it the US dollar, which reports to the Federal Reserve, any currency must respond to a nation or to a central bank. That is not the case for something like Bitcoin. Right? It's a decentralized payment method. And for you to use it as an electronic currency, it will be just the same as today. You go to a website, you go to, say, Flipkart. You purchase something, and when it comes time for paying, they ask you, do you want to pay with MobiKwik? Do you want to pay with Paytm? Do you want to pay with Visa? Do you want to pay with MasterCard? Do you want to pay with Bitcoin? Now, also because it is a decentralized payment method, honestly, we have no way of knowing how it's going to evolve. It's really going to take out, I mean, a lot of people don't understand very much how it works, myself included. So that, I would say, was the biggest challenge that stands in front of Bitcoin is if people will start trusting it enough to like press that button when they're making a payment on Flipkart, say, yeah, I want to pay with Bitcoin.
As an entrepreneur, you went for the investment. So what are the typical questions that investors look up for you when you are going as an entrepreneur?
So question was, when you go for VC funding, for venture capitalists, what are the questions that they'll ask you? I think that will be very dependent on which venture capital firm you're approaching, right? But as a whole, let's bring it back. I won't tell you the how, I'll explain to you the why. Right? Why do venture capitalists want to invest in a startup? They want return on their money. They want return on their investment. And usually what happens for a VC firm is, let's say out of 20 or 30 investments that they make, 29 of them will go bust. 29 of them, they will never give any money. But the 30th, maybe it's like an Uber, maybe it's like a Google, maybe I make 60 or 70 times what I invested, right? So let's say I'm investing $30 million across 30 different companies. Like, I need that one of those 30 to give me like at least 31 million for me to make a profit. Right? That's how venture capital works. So what questions do they ask you? They want to make sure that you have what it takes to be successful. Right? So depending on the stage, and then again there are VCs at different stages, you can have a seed fund, and those will just give you that first little money that you need to grow your business. Then they're looking at the team. They're looking how you are, what's your capacity as a founder. They're looking at your plan. If your plan sounds good, but you can have the best plan but not be able to execute it. So first they'll look at your plan, and then they'll look at how you are as a founder, how your founding team is. So let's say you say that you want to build an e-commerce startup, right? But let's say neither you or neither of your founders have e-commerce experience. Or none of you are engineers, and none of you know how to make the actual platform or product that you want to build. What would you feel as an investor would be the chances of success for that venture? If these people, they have a really good plan, but I don't feel that any of them will be able to execute it, right? So that would be what a lot of the venture firms would look at. Like if you're a more established business and you're going for a large round, so let's say you're Zomato and you're now trying to raise $60 million, then they'll look at your metrics, right? They think, how are you going to make money? And you say, okay, I'm going to make money by doing this, right? And they're going to look, okay, so you say that you make completely random numbers. Let's say that you make $100 out of every client. Cool. How much does it cost you to acquire the client? That needs to be 99 or less, right? So they'll look at that. How much does your structure cost? How much are your marketing costs? All of that. So those would be the different questions at different stages. Sorry, let me just answer this one, and then please.
But for a country like India, technology itself is a big impediment as of now. So we have an India where you can target your cities with these trends, and then there's India which is completely devoid of these trends. So what would you suggest a budding entrepreneur to venture into these markets and provide them a service like Zomato? Because like you said, you need to find a driving force. So in India, most people have a social force that drives them. And we want to help those who don't have the facilities. We don't want to provide a selling Uber with maybe a provider to people who don't have any money. So how do you make these facilities reach the masses of the country? Your suggestion also.
Very good question. So, and just to make a very small remark, it's not that I feel that the only things which will shape the next 5 years are going to be tech. It's just that this is the sector which I feel more certain to talk about. I think that many other forces, such as social entrepreneurship, banking, a lot of others, medicine, obviously, we're going to have huge impact also in the face of the nation. But to answer your question, entrepreneurship doesn't have to be technological. You don't need to make an app to be an entrepreneur. Right? I read actually a very good book, Indian. It's called Jugaad. I don't know if you've read it, but it's really interesting, right? And it basically tells you exactly, and actually some of the stories that they tell is how they managed to create this really simple refrigerator that would work in villages where there was no electricity, right? And how people now suddenly, they had a huge spike in quality of life because now they could keep dairy products. They could get, say, cow's milk and keep it well for a couple of days, even without electricity, right? So, again, entrepreneurship doesn't have to be technological. It all goes back to the same thing. It's how do you solve a problem that needs to be solved? And if that problem is, let's say, people don't have access to vaccines because the vaccines spoil because they need to be kept refrigerated, but there's no electricity, then that's the problem that you need to solve. And if you can come up with a solution for that, then you'll be successful. And if that solution is cost efficient, effective, then it will be successful. We face that problem today. I mean, there are many diseases, for instance, in Africa, which have cures. The cures are known, but the cures are so expensive to make right now that they don't become accessible. Right? So you solve a problem, sure, but you have not yet been able to solve it in an appropriate way.
Well,
Hi Ben, this is Zoha. My question is very simple. Like nowadays we're seeing the Indian startups, a lot of them are going a little bit offline, selling some of their products. For example, Flipkart is going to sell some mobiles through stores, and then it's also planning to sell cars and all these things. So is there a chance, like there is Zomato Deliver, but is there a chance that in the future, will Zomato also, offer something offline? Or will there be like maybe restaurants or something based on the huge data that you have and all the information and the consumer, the consumer, right? So based upon all of that, will there be any like offline operations sometime in the future maybe?
I'm not sure that I fully understand your question. So a lot of what we do already happens offline in the sense that we're just empowering you to find the restaurant that you want to go to. We don't eat for you.
That's what I'm saying, like, you're telling us the restaurant to go to, right? But like in the future, like maybe Zomato launches its own chain of like restaurants maybe. That's all.
Got it. I don't think that's in the plans for us as of now. And this is one of our key things, one of our main culture drivers at Zomato is the ability to focus. And for a startup, that's also really important, right? A lot of the time, that's a challenge that you will have. Because when you're in a startup, especially if you have money and you have good people, the truth is you can do everything. You can literally do everything you set your mind to. But just because you can do it doesn't mean that you should. Right? The ability to focus on doing things in which you're really, really good, it takes discipline. Right? But that's what will make you really, really successful. So just to answer your question in a short manner, I don't think that we will have anything coming up in the offline side of things. I mean, we already do deliver. We do delivery, which is something that you can actually go like 3 years back and read interviews from Pankaj, one of the founders, saying that we'll never do delivery.
Yes.
Then we already do.
Sir, as you mentioned that, Sir, as you mentioned that in your presentation that you have been elevated from team leader to vice president of Zomato. So, sir, I would like to want to know that what are the qualities and attributes you are looking for hiring the new employees of Zomato. So, give your insights on this question.
So great, you guys are instant.
Yeah.
So yeah, great question. Again,
Burning question.
and this is my personal thing. I've done quite a bit of hiring, and that's one thing that I like about Zomato is that we've always looked more about who you are as a person and what we feel that you'd be able to contribute to the organization rather than where you studied or who your parents were. Or so we look a lot more at how much do I think that you can contribute? How are you? How would you fit with our team culturally? Right? What's your attitude like? Are you someone, I'd rather 100 times have somebody join my team who, he might not know everything to begin with, right? And assuming this is a sort of a generalist role. If I'm hiring a doctor, I want that doctor to know exactly what he's doing, right? But if you're being hired to, say, manage a team or to work in something which is a little bit more broad, I would 100 times prefer someone who has open mind, is eager to learn, right? And is down for whatever. If I need to assemble a table, I'm going to assemble the table, right? I would much rather have somebody with that attitude because that I know that over the course of a year or 6 months or 3 months, he can learn whatever he needs to do the position well. And I know that he'll keep learning and he'll keep growing to be much better than he is today. Rather than hire someone who, yeah, he might be really good today, but then that's all I'm going to get. Right? So again, as a company like Zomato, we are always growing. Right? There's always going to be new challenges. So I can't hire you just for this one challenge that I'm trying to fix now. I have to hire somebody who will be able to, maybe he'll take a month to solve this challenge, but then I know that he'll be able to solve all the other challenges that are coming around. In an industry like tech, and especially in food tech, you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You really don't. I mean, if you guys think about all the businesses and the big companies that exist today, maybe 5 years ago, you would never know. You wouldn't even imagine. If we were able to imagine, we'd all be rich. Because we would have created them first, or we would have invested, right? So the landscape is always changing. So again, I would say that adaptation, the ability for someone to adapt, is the number one thing.
Sir, I have a question. Sir.
So guys, I'm being told we're running a little bit short on time. I'm sorry, I don't want to hold on your way. So what I would say is 2 more questions. Everybody will get a t-shirt. Just get you guys talking. So everybody will get a t-shirt, don't worry. But I'll take 2 more questions, okay? So this gentleman over here, this gentleman over there.
Sir, besides Zomato, there are something companies like Fastfood and Food Panda, which do the same business as Zomato does. So what are your strategies to tackle those competitors?
Actually, that's again a very good question, and it's an easy one to answer. So, in a company like Zomato, like Food Panda, right? You're a transaction-driven business. It's like Booking.com, right? So you need as many people coming in through the funnel as possible, and then you need to make sure that those people at the end of the funnel are buying something from you. In the case of Food Panda and in the case of Zomato, they're buying food from a restaurant. So the biggest cost that a company like this has is, how can I bring more people into the funnel, right? How can I get more people into my machine so that I can then convert them into clients? So Zomato already has about 95 million sessions every month. We have 95 million sessions that can potentially convert. And these people, they don't come here because we offer a coupon of 50%. They don't come because we offer a 30% discount. They come because they already use Zomato every day. Because they trust Zomato, they use the app, and for them to be able to book a table or to order food becomes just second nature. It's just clicking another button. And I was already seeing the restaurant Zomato, I'm just going to click here and the food's going to come to me. So that, I would say, is our biggest.
And on behalf of everyone, I'd like to ask, I have a lot of friends who wants to be entrepreneurs. So you've been in many countries and you have done work in India. So one thing, and since they'll all be probably starting from India, one thing that you would like to suggest to be a successful entrepreneur in India, and the one thing that is different from all the other countries that you worked in.
That's a hard one. So let me think. I have to give it 10 seconds of thought for that one. I mean, there will always be, from country to country to country to country, there will always be some differences, right? Like, be it in legal, like how the legal framework works, how easy it is to get funding. So for instance, in Portugal, I once went to a talk like this, and it was a guy who had gotten an investment. He had got bought by Google for like $40 million US. And the guy was there in his flip-flops, you know, talking. And I was like, and then we spend like one week to raise money. So for him, it was super easy. His reality was different than ours. In Portugal, you have to go months and months and months and months. And I know a lot of friends of mine who are entrepreneurs, which their startup almost failed because they failed to account for the huge amount of time that it would take for them to be able to raise money. But where I want to get to is that any market that you're in, any country, it does not matter. Because the core of it remains the same. Is, can you find a problem that needs to be solved, that nobody is solving well enough, or that you know that you can solve better? This can be because you have better technology, right? You've just, sure, there's a way to cure a cold. Imagine that requires you getting a big fat needle in your arm, and somebody just invents a pill. You're both solving the same problem, but your solution is like 10 times better than the guy who has to stick a needle in your arm, right? Or yours is 10 times cheaper. So that's how you create a successful business. what and how that plays into different markets and different realities is your personal ability to understand your environment, right? So like, I'll go back to the example of Food Panda. I don't know if you guys read an article that came out quite recently. I think it's on NDTV. Food Panda is looking to actually sell their Indian arm here because they have a lot of problems, and I'll tell you why. It's quite funny. So Food Panda does heavy discounting, right? That's their strategy to gain more customers. They'll offer you the food at half the price, so they're kind of solving the problem, right? So one guy sells it at 100 rupees, they're selling it to you for 50 because it has a 50% discount. So what the Indian entrepreneurs very quickly learned is that, and then they had no control. So what these guys understood is that I can actually create a fake restaurant.
One of my friends did that.
I can create a fake restaurant on Food Panda. I will buy my own fake food for 50 rupees. And Food Panda, because they bear the discount, they'll actually have to pay me back 70 rupees. So I'll pay 50, they'll give me 70, so I actually earn 20 bucks in this transaction. So let me create 10 fake restaurants. Let me put 100 fake orders a day through each of these fake restaurants. And this happened for a very long time before they were able to realize that this was happening. So what these guys did is they failed to understand what was the environment that they were in, and that they needed to account for something like this, right? And to them it seemed fine. Like, look, we have so many orders coming through, huge growth, amazing, right? But they weren't real metrics because they were not understanding where they were. And that's where, say, a home player sometimes has a lot of advantage. Even if there's like a really large booking.com, you're still able to come in and you're still able to understand the market better and to be able to maybe see an opportunity that they didn't see even though they have all the money in the world. So hope that answers it. Right. So I would love to be able to answer more questions, but please feel free, add me on Twitter or send me an email or follow me on Zomato. Although you guys probably have much better restaurants than I do. And if you have any more questions which I was not able to answer today, please feel free to shoot them over to me over email, and I promise I will try and get back to each and every one of you. Okay? Thank you so much for having me on board. It was a great
We are very grateful to Mr. Gil Belford, and now I take this opportunity to express my gratitude and thank him on behalf of our teachers and Center for Management Studies for taking out his precious time and visiting our center and imparting valuable knowledge to young minds like us. And now I would like to call my friend Shahroz to present Mr. Gil Belford with a memento. Thank you.